Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today the quote from the Holy Quran: Whoever fears Allah, Allah will find a way out for him and He will provide for him from success that he could source that he could never have imagined. I am Dr. Hussain Mahmood. Today I am presenting on fertility related statistics under kind supervision of Professor Dr. Sarah Hussain. Learning outlines. Introduction of fertility, factors affecting fertility, demographic measures, fertility related statistics on national level, and recent updates. Learning objectives. At the end of these presentations, participants will be able to describe about the fertility related statistics and factor affecting it. Introduction. Fertility is the quality of being able to produce children. As a measure, the fertility rate is the average number of children that a woman has in her lifetime and is quantified demographically. Fertility is not only a female health issue, both men and women can experience infertility, and both men and women can take steps to improve their fertility. Factor affecting fertility: biological constraints, behavioral constraints, demographical constraints. Fertility may be measured by a number of indicators. Stillbirths, fetal deaths, and abortions, however, are not included in the measurement of fertility in a population. Determinants of fertility statistics. The approximate determinants of fertility: demographically observed fertility or infertility is the result of a well-defined number of both biological and behavioral factors which serve to mediate the influence of culture, society, economic condition, living standards, and other similar background determinants on individual reproductive behavior. The biological and behavioral factors are called proximate determinant of fertility, and they are the factor through which the social and economic environment can influence individual procreation. Factors like age and healthy weight range, balanced nutrition, sexual behavior, environmental toxins, cultures, constraints fertility, and explain why women don't have the maximum possible number of children, which could be about 35 if they reproduce continuously from the age of 18 to about the age of 45. Having a birth every 9 months. Biological constraints on fertility. The biological constraint on the number of live birth children include time actually lost during pregnancies, time lost after delivery before fecundity resumed, postpartum infecundability. The waiting time to conception, the time lost because of naturally occurring intrauterine mortality, time lost because of sterility arising naturally with age or induced by a pathological condition. On average, assuming the risk spread out over all women in addition to the 9 months of pregnancy, postpartum infectability at 1.5 months. Together, the biological constraint lower the maximum feasible fertility from 35 births to about 15, which is called total fecundity or the limit in physiological capability of childbearing. Chronic diseases. Even if a disease is not directly related to the reproductive system, it can still impact fertility. Several chronic diseases, along with their treatment, can lead to fertility problems in women and men, including diabetes, hypothyroidism, infection of reproductive tract, hormonal imbalance or disease of reproductive system. Hormonal imbalance in both men and women can reduce fertility or even cause infertility. Periodontal disease, untreated celiac disease. For example, endometriosis, polycystic ovary syndrome, and premature ovarian failure can lead to female infertility. Low testosterone can lead to male infertility. Behavioral constraints on fertility. The behavioral constraint on the number of children born by a woman include the extent of exposure to the possibility of conception, for example, the time spent married, as well as extent of practice of breastfeeding. Contraceptive method, whether traditional or modern, including abortion. Together, behavioral constraint lower fertility statistics. The demography of fertility. The level of fertility in the world varies broadly by country and culture, social and economic condition, as well as by individual characteristics such as age. Generally, more industrialized and economically developed societies have lower fertility than agriculture less developed societies. Also, within countries, generally more educated groups with higher income have lower fertility than less educated groups with lower income. Factor affecting fertility. Indirect social factors, age of marriage, polygamy, separation and divorce, widows, postpartum abstinences, celibacy, frequency of coitus. Direct factor influencing fertility. Oral pills, loops, condoms, abortions, infanticides. Other social factors, food supply, economical condition, family systems, social status of women and level of education, political system, attitude toward children, desire to maintain status, religion. This picture shows the number of children by level of education of the mothers in countries where women have an average 5 to more than children. We can see in educated mother, we can see number of children from 1 to 3 in, and this varies from higher secondary and primary, increases from 1 to 8, 7 to 8, sorry. Demographic measures. Demographic measures that fertility rate in a variety of ways, which can be broadly broken into periods measures and cohort measures. Period measures refer to cross section of the population in one year. Cohort data, on the other hand, follow the same people over a period of decades. Both periods and cohorts measures are widely used. Period measures. Crude birth rate, the number of live births in a given year per thousand people alive at the middle of that year. One disadvantage of this indicator is that it is influenced by the age structure of the population. Birth rate is equal to number of live births during the year over estimated mid-year population per thousand. The birth rate is unsatisfactory measure of fertility because the total population is not exposed to childbearing. General fertility rate, the number of births in a year divided by the number of women aged 15 to 49 times per thousand. It focuses on the potential mother only and takes the age distribution into account. General fertility rate is equal to number of live births in a year over mid-year female population age 15 to 49 in the same area in same year multiplied by 1000. Child woman ratio. The ratio of the number of children under 5 to the number of women 15 to 49 times 1000. It is especially useful in historical data as it does not require counting births. This measure is actually a hybrid because it involves death as well as birth. That is because of infant mortality, some of the births are not included, and because of adult mortality, some of the women who gave birth are not counted either. Total fertility rate. The total number of children a woman could bear during her lifetime if she were to experience the prevailing age specific fertility rate of women. Total fertility rate equal to the sum for age group of 5 times each age specific fertility rate, gross reproductive rate, the number of girl babies a synthetic cohort will have. It assumes that all of the baby girls will grow up and live at least age 50. Gross reproductive rate is equal to C sigma female age specific fertility rate ratio C is equal to age interval. Each woman will almost produce three daughters by the end of her reproductive life, given that she survived up to age 50 and the female age specific fertility rate remains constant. Net reproductive rate. The net reproductive rate starts with the gross reproductive rate and add the realistic assumption that some of the women will die before age 49. Therefore, they will not alive to bear some of the potential babies that were counted in the gross reproductive rate. Net reproductive rate is always lower than gross reproductive rate. Net reproductive rate, the average number of daughters a woman would bear in her life if she experienced the age specific fertility rate prevailing at the study period and if her daughters experience the prevailing rates of mortality. If the age schedule of both fertility and mortality remain constant, the net reproduction rate would be the measure of generation replacement. For example, if net reproduction rate is equal to 1.1, next generation will be 10% larger than the present generation. If net reproduction rate is 1.0, next generation will be the same as the present generation. If net reproduction rate is 0.99, next generation will be 10% smaller than the present generation. World statistics. The global average fertility rate is just below 2.5 children per woman today. Over the last 50 years, the global fertility rate has halved. And over the course of modernization of societies, the number of children per woman decreased very substantially. In the pre-modern era, fertility rate of 4.5 to 7 children per woman were common. At that time, the very high mortality at a young age kept population growth low. Among the key findings for 2020, the world population is projected to reach 9.9 billion by 2050, an increase of more than 25% from 2020. The global total fertility rate is 2.3 births per woman, while the replacement level is 2.1 births per woman. With a fertility rate of almost 7 children per woman, Niger is the country with the higher fertility rate in the world, followed by Mali. The total population of Niger is growing at fast pace. In 2021, the fertility rate in Taiwan was estimated to be at 1.07 children per woman, making it the lowest fertility rate worldwide. The fertility rate is the average number of children born per woman of childbearing age in a country. This picture shows children per woman in 1950 to 2020. This show In 1950, child was in range 5 and it decreases in 2020 to 2 to 3, 2.5 children per woman. This picture shows how long did it take to fertility to fall from more than 6 children per woman to fewer than 3 children per woman. This United Kingdom takes 95 years to fall from 6 to 3. Poland takes 90 years. Malaysia takes 70 years, 37 years. Tanzania takes 21 years. Bangladesh 20 years. China takes 11 years. And Iran takes 10 years to fall from 6 children per woman to fewer than 3 children per woman. This table shows countries that have the lowest fertility rate today had very high fertility rates in the past. Replacement rate, fertility rate, average number of children born to women during their reproductive years for the population in a given area to remain stable on overall total fertility rate of 2.1 is needed, assuming no immigration or immigration occurs. If one average woman give birth to 2.1 children and these children survive to the age of 15, any given woman will have replaced herself and her partner upon death. A total fertility rate of 2.1 is known as the replacement rate. Dependency ratio. The dependency ratio is the measure of the number of dependent age 0 to 14 and over the age of 65 compared with the total population aged 15 to 64. This demographic indicator gives insight into the number of people of non-working age compared with the number of those of working age. Crude death rate in Pakistan. In 2020, crude death rate for Pakistan was 6.84 death per thousand population. Over the last 50 years, crude death rate of Pakistan was declining at a moderating rate to shrink from 14.92 deaths per thousand population in 1971 to 6.84 deaths per thousand population in 2020. General fertility rate in Pakistan. The current fertility rate for Pakistan in 2021 is 3.363 births per woman, a 1.81% decline from 2020. The fertility rate for Pakistan in 2020 was 3.425 births per woman, a 1.81% declining from 2019. The fertility rate for Pakistan in 2019 was 3.488 birth per woman, a 1.7% declining from 2018. Child-woman ratio. The child-woman ratio of a population is defined as the number of children under age 5 per thousand women aged 15 to 44 or 1549 in a population in a given year. This crude fertility measures based on basic census data in sometimes used when more specific fertility related information is not available. In 2019, the fertility rate in Pakistan amounted to 3.45 children per woman. 3.6 children born per woman in 2020 is 0.1% in 2019 is. In 2020, fertility rate of Pakistan was 3.4 birth per woman. Fertility rate of Pakistan fell gradually from 2.38 in 1975 to 1.54 in 2020. Gross reproduction rate in Pakistan in 2020, net reproduction rate of Pakistan was 1.54. Net reproduction rate Pakistan fell gradually from 2.38 in 1975 to 1.54 in 2020. Now times for recent updates. This article In 2020, published in 2020, the fertility rate jaw-dropping global crash in children being born. Researchers at the University of Washington Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation showed the globally fertility rate nearly halved to 2.4 in 2017, and their study published in Lancet project it will fall below 1.7 by 2100. As a result, the researchers expect the number of people on the planet to peak at 9.7 billion around 2064 before falling down to 8.8 billion by the end of this century. The world is ill prepared for the global crash in children being born, which is said to have a jaw-dropping impact on societies, say researchers. Falling fertility rate mean nearly every country could have shrinking population by the end of the century. And 23 nations, including Spain and Japan, are expected to see their population halve by 2100. Countries will also age dramatically, with the many people turning 80 as there are being born. Which countries will be most affected? Japan's population is projected to fall from peak of 128 million in 2017 to less than 53 million by the end of the century. Italy is expected to see an equally dramatic population crash from 61 million to 28 million over the same time frame. They are two of 23 countries which are also include Spain, Portugal, Thailand, and South Korea, expected to see their population more than halves. China, currently the most populous nation in the world, is expected to peak at 1.4 billion in 4 years' time before early halving to 732 million by 2100. India will take its place. The UK is predicted to peak at 75 million in 2063 and fall to 71 million by 2100. This is an other article published in 2022, Worldwide Prevalence, Risk Factor and Physiological Impact of Infertility Among Women, a systematic review and meta-analysis. Objective to assess the prevalence, risk factor, and physiological impact of infertility among females. This review summarized the available evidence, effect estimate, and strength of statistical association between infertility and its risk factors. Its systematic review and meta-analysis, its eligibility criteria, the inclusion criteria involves studies that reported the physiological impact on the infertility among women. We included cross-sectional case control and cohort design published in the English language, conducted in the community, and performed at healthy institution level on prevalence, risk factors, and physiological impact of fertility in women. The result total 32 studies with low risk base involving 12 lakh for 45,056 women were included. The finding indicated the overall poor prevalence to be 64.25% and 51.5% for infertility and primary infertility, respectively. Smoking was significantly related to infertility with the R of 1.85% times higher than female who don't smoke. There was a statistical significance between infertility and psychological distress among females with R of 1.63. A statistical significance was noted between depression and infertility among females with the OR of 1.40 compared with those for fertile. Conclusion: the study result highlights an essential and increasing mental disorder among female associated with infertility and may be overlooked. Acknowledging the problems and providing positive supportive measures to females with infertility ensures more positive outcomes during the therapeutic process. This review is limited by difference in definition, diagnostic cut points, study design, and source of population. Now time for MCQs. MCQ 1. Most of the developing countries have enormously increasing population to rate by increase in the number of live birth. Total fertility rate for countries can be said as a number of birth per 1000 women, number of children born to women between 15 to 49 years, number of children per woman, approximately completed family size, number of birth before 35 year of age by all women, number of total children born per total population. Anyone? It's B. Number of children born to women between 15 to 49 years. The level of fertility in the world varies broadly by country and culture. The rate of neutral increase in human population is the result of two demographic variables. This can be calculated by crude death, crude birth rate plus crude death rate plus crude mortality rate, crude birth rate negative crude death rate, crude birth rate plus crude mortality rate, crude birth rate plus total fertility rate. Anyone? It's A. Crude birth rate plus crude death rates. MCQ number 3. Mr. Khan is a teacher by profession in a government school. He is the only earning hand for the family and he has 4 children. One of them is 20 years of age, all dependent of one man, their father. The dependency ratio is the ratio of the young to old population on young and old on working population. Age more than 60 and less than 18 are dependent. Age more than 55 and less than 20 are dependent. It's C, young,
B, C.
it's young and old on working population. MCQ number 4. The number of reproduction rates start with the gross reproduction rate and the adds the realistic assumption that some of the women will die before age 49. The only difference between these two is is more than GRR is more than NNR. NNR is more than GRR and GRR is equal to NRR. GRR is double of NRR. NNR is half of GRR.
It's C.
It's A. Growth rate is increased than NNR. Miss Ali is a 33-year-old lady married for Mrs. Ali is a 33-year-old lady married for 4 years. She conceived about 2.5 years of marriage and now she has a son. Keeping in view the consideration that she has not practiced any contraceptive method at all, the factors that affect her fertility, behavioral constraints, biological constraints, demographical constraints, environmental constraints. It's B, biological constraints. The global average fertility rate is just below 2.5 children per woman today. Ratio of all birth registered during a year to the number of women of childbearing age. A, crude birth rate. B, standardized birth rate. C, net reproduction rate. D, death rate. E, generally fertility rate.
A. Crude birth rate.
It's C, the general fertility rate. Demographically is the statistical study of human population and changes. Fertility is one of the main component of its variables. The other two variables that contribute to population changes are A, mortality, child immunization; B, mortality and migration; C, immigration and childbirth; D, migration and infant death; E, morbidity and migration.
B.
Yes, it's B, mortality and migration. The birth rate is an unsatisfactory measure of fertility because the total population is not exposed to childbearing. If in a developing country 3,250 births happen in a city with population of 22 3,000 in the year 2002, the birth rate for the country is 12.57, 13.57, 14.57, 16.5, and 15.71. It's C.
B.
It's C, 14.57. This is formula. Crude birth rate is equal to P over B multiplied by 1000. P is number of live birth and B is median population. According to fertility statistic, world population will double itself in about 58 years, while Pakistan, according to these statistics, seems to double itself in about 17 years, 9 years, 36 years, 43 years, and 29 years.
36.
It's E, 29 years. The number of daughters who would be born to a woman completing her reproductive life at current age specific fertility rate comes under which of the following demographic variables: age specific reproduction rate, general fertility rate, gross reproduction rate, crude birth rate, and crude death rate. It's C. It's C, gross reproduction rate. This is key for MCQs. This is YouTube channel, link for YouTube channel, and thank you so much.